What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Spilled with Tea. Today I want to talk about something a lot of people carry really quietly inside themselves. And that's shame for the choices that they made before they had the capacity to be who they are now. And this isn't an excuse video. This is a responsibility video. There was a time in my life where I've hurt people. I've made a lot of selfish choices in my life. I've cheated. I ran. I avoided responsibility instead of facing myself at times. And for a long time I hated myself for that. But here's the truth that I had to face if I was ever going to truly heal and step into the man that I'm meant to be. And that was that I wasn't a man yet. It doesn't mean that I wasn't accountable. It means I didn't yet have the emotional regulation, the self-awareness, or the internal structure to even lead myself, never alone anyone else. And I was kind of operating as a child in a man's world at times in my life. Growing up I had no guidance, and even throughout life I had no guidance. I had no one teaching me how to, regulate my emotions. I had no one showing me how to communicate. I had no one truly modeling discipline, structure, or healthy love on a consistent basis. So I found these things on my own through life, in pieces, scattered pieces that was across, many different periods of my life. This is also what led me to writing my book. Some of these periods of my life also is why I joined the military. I needed that structure, that discipline, and I needed something solid to hold on to at one time in my life. I learned how to communicate to the point where now in my life I can articulate myself very incredibly well now, but that did not come easily at all. That came through a lot of failures, a lot of losses, and through a lot of consequences. I will say that every loss has taught me something I was never taught directly by anyone. It taught me how to speak clearly, how to sit with discomfort, how to be able to regulate myself instead of reacting, how to rebuild my life time and time again after each time it collapsed. And that wasn't a weakness. That was just education by consequences. When it came to relationships and love, that was something I struggled with a lot on my own. And especially given the circumstances of what I went through in my early days. For a very long time I thought, love was how I basically survived. I gave all of my love so freely. I poured into so many people. I overextended, and I tried to earn that sense of belonging through effort and sacrifice. The more that I can prove to you, the more that I can do for you, the more that I can provide for you, the more that you will make me feel like I belong here. And I can tell you that is a very unhealthy way to live. Because when you stop putting into yourself and you try to overextend and you pour into other people instead of also pouring into yourself, you burn yourself out. Every single time that I have burnt out in my life, that's when the demons in my head got so much more incredibly louder. That's when I started to realize something important, that love without boundaries is not love. It's self-erasure. You erase yourself. It's not that I didn't need less love from the other person, it's just I needed some sort of containment. I needed to learn how to love myself properly, and I needed to learn and earn the ability to hold on to love without bleeding myself dry, without overextending myself, without over trying to prove my love to you, without over trying to provide for everyone around me. And that part too was about becoming a man as well too. And that was a very, very hard pill to swallow, and it was a very emotional one to be able to look myself in the mirror with that much depth And so a big truth that also doesn't get talked about, is also having the ability to be alone. Some people can say that they love being alone, and then if you notice, when they're alone for so long, they're scared to be with anyone else. But then on the opposite spectrum, you have the people who are terrified of being alone, and so they constantly bounce from relationship to relationship. I have struggled with kind of both aspects of it. It's weird. I was afraid of being alone at times of my life, but also, oddly enough, I absolutely love being alone at the same exact time. Because to me, alone to me meant safety. I was safe. Everything was quiet. There was no chaos running around. And I felt like I can control what's going on around me because it's so quiet, because there's not a whole lot of things going in and out of my life. But what it also meant was the same pain that I felt when I was a child, and that is the pain of abandonment. And that's a hard thing to deal with also. So another thing that I had to work on was, it wasn't about choosing one or the other. It's not about choosing to hurry up and get into relationships and segregate myself from society, but it also wasn't about segregating myself from society and avoiding relationships. My work was how to be alone without disappearing even inside a relationship, to sit with my thoughts, to be able to regulate myself, to cope during those dark moments without any kind of external validation, especially from your partner that you're with. And that's where, your true strength starts to come from. And this right here is where you start to learn forgiveness. Because in order to forgive anyone else, you must forgive yourself first. And that other person may never even know that you have already forgiven them. And you stop chasing for apologies, and you stop looking for apologies, because you have already practiced the art of forgiveness. And again, it all starts here, yourself. And this is why I give myself forgiveness. Not because what I went through or what I put other people through was okay. It's not okay. But because I did the best that I could with what I had at the time. With whatever amount of knowledge I had, whatever amount of communication skills I had, whatever amount of self-love I had at the time. You don't sit there and shame a child for not knowing what they're never taught. And again, I'm not using that as an excuse. But at the same time, you don't sit there and punish yourself, especially your younger self, for doing the only things that you know how to do, and that's trying to survive. Forgiveness isn't about, letting yourself off the hook. You still hold on to that level of accountability. You still deal with the grieving process. You still deal with that level of pain that maybe you feel, or the pain that you may have caused. Forgiveness is just simply saying to yourself, like, I understand why I did what I did. I forgive myself enough to not abandon myself for it. You learn through those times of forgiveness. You grow, you learn, and then in your next stage of life, you apply the lessons that you have learned. And this is how you accumulate more and more capacity for more and more love, or more and more money, or better jobs, or anything in life. You learn that level of forgiveness, and then by learning and applying it, you now have given yourself more capacity, and you can now move forward in a healthier direction to not face those same obstacles, to not repeat those same patterns in life. And this is where you start to have that high level of accountability, but without destructing yourself. Forgiving myself, it didn't mean pretending that, those choices I made or the things that had happened to me didn't matter. They matter very deeply to me. And those are things that for a long time you have to sit with. The damage that you cause, especially the damage that I have caused in my life, the trust that I broke, that pattern, that one pattern that I actually did repeat in my life. But I also had to acknowledge something else, that I was operating from a survival standpoint, not from a level of wholeness. And that, the things that people go through, especially for myself or other people, it doesn't justify the harm that you cause. But it does explain the amount of capacity that you had to hold on to before that pain was caused. You didn't have the capacity to hold all of that. You didn't have the capacity to navigate through those rough waters, those tough times, those trying times in relationships, those trying times in jobs, whatever the case may be. So you can't justify anything, but it helps explain the capacity that you had. And you cannot expect someone to act from a level of maturity that they had not yet built. And to me, what becoming a man actually meant, which it does not happen overnight, and it will never happen overnight, even if you just say the right words, or you felt enough of that guilt to try to come back to apologize and do and fix whatever it is that you did. It happens when you stop running from yourself. You hear everyone talking about, especially motivational speakers and athletes and all these, people on the internet and everyone, when they turn around and they face their demons. And that's when you truly start to step in manhood. You start to learn how to start regulating yourself instead of reacting to everything. You start choosing to be completely honest and transparent over just comfortability. Like, there are many days where I absolutely will be 1,000,000% honest, where I piss a lot of people off. And this is why I call myself an asshole. Because I will always give somebody the God's honest truth, even if it absolutely hurts them. And the reason why I'm able to give people the God's honest truth is because I'm able to give myself the God's honest truth. Even when I fuck up, I mess up, I cheat, I've stolen in my lifetime, I've done a lot of bad things in my lifetime. And I've given myself that honest feedback. And that's because I've never had anyone give me that honest feedback back to teach me. So I had to teach myself through downfalls. And so when I get with people and I respect you and I care about you, I'm going to give you the God's honest truth. Because I genuinely care about your well-being. And the path that you're going to go down is not going to be the path that you're going to want to face. I was always that child that touched the hot stove, and so I've known many paths in the past. Some you just don't want to go down. You don't want to deal with the repercussions that you will face. You do not want to deal with the level of sorrow, guilt, and pain that you will be met with. So I try to teach those lessons early. Also about becoming a man is being able to hold your boundaries instead of trying to control what the hell is going on around you. But also you have to be willing to face any kind of consequences without collapsing, without breaking down, and without staying in that stuck position. You have to be willing to face these consequences. And I would like to add one note to this is, don't stay stuck in that failure mentality. If you fail at something and you instantly say to yourself, well, that's it. I failed, I tried, I gave it a shot, and you wash your hands and you try to walk away, but you know deep down in your heart that's what you want. Don't look at it as a failure. Learn to reprogram your mind and look at it as an opportunity for a teaching moment So that way, when you continuously go after what you want, you are going to be met with that same obstacle, but now you can navigate either around it, over it, or under it, or straight through it a lot better to get the desired outcome that you want in life. Because when you are able to handle all these things and you start to become a man and a better man and the best man that you possibly can be, that's when a lot of things starts to change in your life. And it's not because you become perfect or I became perfect, but it's because you become more present in the life that's around you. So there are times where even I don't need to forgive myself, but I still do it anyways. You know what I mean? I still forgive myself now. I forgive myself because simply, I didn't know what I hadn't been taught. Every single human being is walking around in this world not knowing anything. They're just doing their absolute best, but no one will ever admit to you that they have absolutely no fucking clue what the hell's going on. Everyone acts like they have everything together and it's bullshit. So you have to be willing to give yourself forgiveness. And I choose to constantly do the work once I become even more aware of everything that's going around me. True forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about integrating it. It's about having the ability to sit there and self-reflect on everything. Not staying stuck there, but also allowing yourself to be taught what you need to be taught and applying it so that way you can integrate it into the next stage of your life. It's simply just sitting there with yourself and saying, I see who I was. I understand why I was there. I understand why I had to go through what I went through. And I choose to do and be better now. That's growth. That's responsibility. And that's a part of being a man, manhood. A lot of people carry shame inside them. Shit, there's still things that I carry shame about. You know what I mean? Do I stay stuck there? No. But if you are an individual who is stuck hating that past version of yourself, what I want you to do is be able to ask yourself this honestly. Did I know better? Or did I simply know how to just survive? Because if you have changed, if you are doing the work, and if you're showing up to society a lot differently now, then maybe, just maybe, it's time that you stop punishing yourself for becoming better than what you used to be. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. Healing isn't about being perfect. It's about being truly honest with yourself and to the world. If you want to go even deeper, my book, A Child Called Home, is linked below. If you're building yourself from the inside out, please, I invite you to stay here with us. This is Spill the Tea, and we didn't avoid any of this work. We started to integrate it into life. I also made a guide that you can follow. The link is in the description. It's on Gumroad. You can also check that out as well too. So anytime that you're going through a tough time and you just kind of need that little self-assurance, it's right there for you. I hope you guys have a great night.